Well, welcome to the next edition of What Else is New. And this is going to be I assume this will be put out in early January. It kind of has to be put out in early January because some of this information we're going to talk about can't be released till early January. So
on the deal.
Yeah. So, well, I have a special guest here today. I have David Dawley, who's with me today. And he's going to introduce himself here in a second. But I've known Dog. It's my nickname for him forever. In fact, I'm in honor of you, Tim. We're in Oklahoma State.
I see that.
Yeah, I did that in honor of you today because he's actually a fellow Oklahoma State boy. And but I'm going to have him talk. He's actually our Callaway rep here in Oklahoma. I say that, Callaway rep, but he does a lot and travels. He actually travels more than I do. So
that's a lie.
That's a lie.
That's a lie.
Did you travel?
That's a lie, though. You travel more than I do.
No, I don't know. Well, it's a gamble going on here. All right. So introduce yourself first, and then I'm going to ask you some history here. But what do you do now? What are you doing now?
Sure. So my name is David Dawley. I have been born and raised in Oklahoma. Played a lot of junior golf here. Played high school golf, obviously a JGA.
Okay.
Played a lot of junior stuff in the state of Oklahoma. Had some success. Went on to play at Oklahoma State for a few years. So after a few years there, went to Central Oklahoma to finish up.
Right.
And got in the golf industry just by choice and by happening.
Right.
And long story short, ended up with Callaway 25 years later.
Right. Now, what years were you at Oklahoma State?
93 to 96.
Yeah, you're about 10 years behind me. You're a pup.
Yeah.
You're a pup. Yeah. But same coach.
Like a pup.
Same coach.
Yeah.
Coach Holder was there at the time. So now so let's talk a little bit about in between, because part of your history, well, your golf history, is you actually were one of the not the original guys, one of the first guys at Adams Golf. Am I right?
That's correct.
Yeah. So tell a little bit about Adams Golf, because that's where we kind of got really connected. I mean, you were 10 years behind me, but then you got into Adams Golf, and we were very highly associated with Adams Golf. And talk about that a little bit.
So the Adams Golf venture was really cool because I was in golf retail for a long time,
okay.
But had an opportunity to go outside and be an outside sales rep as an independent
right.
for Adams Golf, who was just getting started. Right. And at that time, Adams Golf was a nobody.
Right.
But they came up with a little thing called a hybrid.
Right.
That is still being played today by a lot of guys.
Right.
And it was fun because I got to show people what it's like to actually launch a 4 hybrid instead of skull a 4 iron.
Right.
And so,
and at one time, shortly after Adams came out, every single pro had at least one Adams hybrid in their bag. I mean, it didn't matter what they were sponsored by. They had, I was one of them.
Right.
And then when they came out, I was actually a tour player. I was actually on the mini tours at the time playing tour, and I had that Adams 2 hybrid, the 3 hybrid. That was in the bag. They were amazing stuff.
And they still, to this day, you could pull it out of the bag and hit it.
Right.
Because the Adams Idea Pro hybrid, the black one.
Yep.
Was amazing. And I think once tour guys started putting it in the bag, they focused on the mini tours, then people started going, okay, I'll try the hybrid. But before it wasn't cool.
And long story made short, and I don't know the real story behind this, but it was Barney Adams with Adams Golf. And you knew Barney. I mean, the guys, it wasn't like having some guy out there that you guys didn't know. You personally knew them. You personally worked with them. Yeah. Him and you, and then Chip Brewer. Chip Brewer, was a big guy at Adams. I mean, he was and when he was with Adams, but he was a big wig with Adams, and he basically, I mean, I can say this so much. TaylorMade kind of just stole what Adams did. I mean, they stole the technology Adams had come about. And I forgot the name of the technology. What was it?
The speed slot.
The speed slot. Yeah. Because I remember I was at the PGA show the year that TaylorMade made the agreement with Adams and had to pay they settled with them. And because they stole the speed slot technology. So basically they bought Adams Golf. They took it over. Instead of having to pay this huge, enormous lawsuit, they basically bought the company. Right. And Barney Adams went sailing off into the sunset.
Deal. Yeah. No, but the opportunity to work with Chip Brewer was also very cool because I was on the advisory board with them. So we saw things before they launched and how they did the R&D and what they were looking for. One of my favorite sayings from Chip, and it's still to this day, is, hey, if you make a product that performs, they'll buy it. Right. It doesn't, numbers don't lie, performance doesn't lie. Right. And to this day, he still believes that. And that's why I enjoy working with
Chip Brewer, for those that don't know it, and maybe you do, maybe you don't, Chip Brewer is now the CEO of Callaway. He is the guy. He is the big dog at Callaway. He's the end all at Callaway. I mean, if anything's happening at Callaway, any money's being going through Callaway, anything's new coming out in Callaway, it's going to go through Chip, or Chip's come up with the idea or whatever it is. Correct. He's the guy.
Correct.
And so that's big time. I mean, that's big time. And the cool thing about it now is you're still very tied. You're still close to Chip.
Somewhat. At least I can text him. He'll text me back.
Yeah. You know? Which is saying more than even the CFO of Callaway. I just met with the CFO and a couple of guys at Callaway that you have more connection with Chip than they did. But anyway, so that's your history. And now you're the family man, and now you still live in Oklahoma.
I do. I still live in Oklahoma on acreage.
Yeah.
I'm a hillbilly.
Yeah.
Live on the dirt road. It's cool.
So tell them what you're traveling before we get into the product this year. Tell them what your traveling entails now, because you left the golf industry for a little while. This was the interesting part. You left for how many years did you leave the golf?
About 5 years.
About 5 years you left the golf industry.
Yep.
And then our rep who'd been with us for forever, it seems like, he decided to move on.
Yep.
And the regional rep, who's over just only a couple of regional reps, came to me and said, "We're looking for a new rep. Do you know anybody? We're looking for a new rep. Know anybody?" And I was like, "Well, I really don't." You know, we're talking. And then he came about 2 weeks later and he goes, "I think you're going to like who I chose." And he goes, "I can't really." And he goes, "No, I can tell you." He couldn't release it yet. And he goes, "It's David Dawley." And I go, "Dog?" And he goes, "Yeah." And he goes, "In fact," he goes, "This is how our interview went." He interviewed David Dawley and he goes, "Do you know Graves Golf?" Did he say that?
Exactly.
He asked you if you knew us, right?
Well, you're kind of a player, right?
Yeah, kind of a little player with Callaway around here. And he said, and you told him our history.
Yeah.
And he goes, and I go, "Yeah, good and bad."
And that solidified it, to be honest with you.
Well, the biggest thing about you is that you're a player. You still are a player, but you don't play much anymore, but you were a player.
Yeah.
I mean, collegiate player, extremely incredible amateur player. I always respected Dog, and those at home, I respect him because his short game was phenomenal. I mean, I always tell those guys that have some mild or pretty good short games. He had a great short game. It's because we didn't hit it that far.
I was going to say, I didn't hit it anywhere. I had to get up and down. Yeah.
He's not the 6'5" guy back here that hits it 300 yards. He had to have a great short game because he didn't, right?
That's right.
But he also, he got recruited or went to the top college in the nation back then. I mean, when Oklahoma State, when you were there, that was number one. That was
number one. Yeah.
National championship every 3 to 4 years. And here we go.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Very fortunate.
But the other thing is that, which was interesting about Dawley, and I can give him a little feather in his cap. Even when he went to Oklahoma State, they very, very, very seldom took local players. It was national, guys from California, guys from Arizona, overseas. I mean, a few, but very few local. And Dog was one of the guys that kind of broke the mold and brought in and was an Okie coming in. That was a big deal.
It was a big deal for me.
It was a big deal for everyone.
Yeah.
That was a big deal because you kind of set that mold, because it was kind of after that. There wasn't many before that.
Yeah.
There's even more. Now, a lot of the guys moved to Oklahoma that were there, but they weren't from here.
Right.
So that was a big deal. But anyway, so now now you're back in Callaway. You're connected in it, which is really cool. And you've been for a couple of years, right? So
yes.
And so let's get into it. I just got back. From being out in San Diego. They bring us out and put us through a whole couple of days worth of filming the new product, talking about the new product, going over the new product. And this new product for this year is going to be called the Callaway Elyte, Elyte. And talk about that for a second first, because that's a big deal for them out there. I didn't realize how big a deal it was, but tell them why that's such a big deal with that name.
So it's a twofold story, right? So, when they came out with the paradigm, it's a paradigm shift in technology, and it parlayed into the number one selling driver.
Right.
And then they had to follow that up, and they came out with the smoke, which they parlayed into the number one driver. Right. So how do you follow up something again and again? It's really hard to do. Right. So the Elyte comes about. Right. And the name is kind of cool. Yeah. Xander Schauffele, as everybody knows, last fall, changed his entire team. Right. Got rid of his dad, that's tough to do. Right. Longtime coach. Right. His nutritionist, his trainer, everybody. Right. And his words were, "Hey, I'm good, but I want to be elite." Right. Hence the name. Right. And then you've got a spelling, Ely.
Which is Callaway, because everybody out there thinks it's spelled. That's Eli Callaway.
Yeah.
Ely Callaway.
Right. And everybody says Eli, but it's Ely Callaway.
Yeah, I got corrected on that too. The first time I went out there, I said Eli, and then I got corrected very quickly. Yeah. It's Ely. Yeah. You get corrected very quickly out there, especially when you're at the Ely Callaway Performance Center. Right. So it was really the twofold between Xander saying, "I want to be an elite player," and then putting the original founder of Callaway, the name, hence the company, his name in a club. Yep. So that was a big deal because you're putting his name in the club. That's right. That's a huge deal. It better be good. It better be the best. It better be the creme de la creme. And from what we've seen just in the past week, doing some staff fittings, professional staff fittings, we always fit them ahead of launch so they can see. Right. The numbers are staggering to see the difference over the smoke. Right. Which is, once again, it's hard to do year over year. Well, when we were out there, Adam Hadwin was out there, and Adam Hadwin was sitting next to us. We talked to Adam. He just happened to be fit. He was the day he could come in. There was the day that we were working with everybody out there. just by coincidence. And James thought that was really cool because he had a Canadian out there, and James wouldn't shut up. But Adam, I watched the numbers. And so it wasn't BS. Yeah. And he had a smoke driver. And obviously Adam Hadwin's a phenomenal player, President's Cup player, the whole jazz. He's an unbelievable player. And a lot of the pros, Alexander and Ashia, I guess how I was pronouncing Ashe, and the other guys had been already fit. Adam had kind of been a little bit later coming in. And I saw the numbers, and he was very successful with the smoke driver last year. The numbers with the Elite were a little better. They're actually a little bit better, and he liked it. But a really crazy one was the fairway wood, because he couldn't hit more fairway woods. I bet he hit 100 fairway woods next to us, because he immediately gained 2 or 3 miles an hour and like 10 to 15 yards with that 3 wood. It was crazy. I watched it.
That's awesome.
The driver was longer. The driver was more accurate, and it was significant. But that 3 wood amazed him. And I think, but with pros, I don't think the people realize out there how much they actually play that club, because the driver is just so long for him and it can potentially get him in trouble. They hit that 3 wood like crazy.
Right. And it's a confidence club.
Right.
A lot of the time.
Right.
Yeah.
And there was huge number game. He's in the Apex iron, so he didn't do a whole lot of the iron work out there, obviously, because this is more of the forgiving iron, the iron for the general public, the Elite. But it was pretty fascinating watching that. But let's just talk about the clubs themselves, kind of go through this. We'll do more individually later. We'll do some more breakdowns on this, but let's talk about, first of all, let's kind of work our way up. Talk about the irons, because I know we're getting more of the driver, but the irons have basically, there's 4 different irons. Am I right?
That's correct.
Okay. So there's we'll start with the fast, which is the lighter weight for those that have slower to very slow swing speeds. Even like ladies got it.
That's correct.
Right? Okay. Then you have the X, which is the very forgiving one.
Very forgiving. Offset. Little thicker bottom.
So it's a little thicker bottom, little offset. So for our single playing guys, it's actually going to put a little draw bias into it.
That's not true.
So not quite what we want.
Right.
Then you have the HL. And the HL is going to be the big one.
Yeah, that's the big one.
The HL is probably going to fit, I would say 60 to 70%, if not more, maybe 75% of our clientele. Right. And the HL, talk about the HL a little bit.
So the HL, what I like about it, Tim, is the fact that it's clean.
Right.
A lot of HL clubs are kind of chunky. They're big, deep cavities. Right. They're not cool to look at.
Right.
They may perform, but they're not cool to look at.
Right.
So now you have one that performs and it's cool to look at. It's very clean looking. So what they've done is they've added a little more urethane in the head.
Right.
So it's softer feeling. It's better sounding. It doesn't click as much. Right. And then with the new AI 10X face. Yeah. Now, when we say 10X, that's 10 times more control points than the last model.
Yeah, that's that. And I got that explained to me. It took him a while, because I'm not a wizard at this stuff. And you guys are. This guy's the one.
But I can at least.
This guy who goes out and he will literally go to 3 or 4 different stops in a day, talk to people at different shops or different places that are fitting the clubs, and have explain this to him. Correct. So that's why he's on here. Okay. So this is the 10X face. Okay.
So the 10X face is your second generation of player swing code driven technology.
And let's talk about that for 2 seconds. I'm going to keep backing up on here. But understand, this AI technology, which tends to scare everybody or tends to freak everybody out, is AI technology of real players' data. It's not taking professional data. It's taking that, but in more than that, it's taking all players.
That's right.
And we're talking hundreds, it's millions and millions of data points.
15 years worth.
15 of all players.
Yep.
So pros is a very small part. They're in there, but a very small part of this. And that's the coolest thing. So when they're creating these clubs, it's real players' data. That's good. You guys at home watching this. It's me. It's Dog. It's all of us watching this. It's all of us listening to this. It's guys that are scratch players up to guys that are brand new players. Guys, it's everybody in between, and that's the data they're using for this.
Well, and that's the confident part of it. Right. When you pick up a club, you want to know, is this really going to help me? Right. Numbers don't lie. Right. They're to show you. Right. But you can have confidence in the fact that, hey, this data comes from Joe Blow off the street. Right. He's a 15 handicapper. Right. It's not the 2 handicapper. Right. Right. So every club is made for that particular player. So 15 years of data they put into a supercomputer that actually has an algorithm that will spit out a face that's best for that player.
Love it. So talk about the 10X face a little bit, just a bit here.
So the 10X face basically is that algorithm spits out, and on the back of it, it has all the control points. Right. So no matter where you hit that ball, high toe, low heel, low off the face, high off the face, you're gaining ball speed, you're gaining better spin conditions, you're gaining better launch conditions, and more consistency.
And that's the one thing. So this is the face of the club, but the one thing you realize is you can't, it's hard to see this on camera, but you run your finger across this, it's like ripples in it. It's like there's like waves in it.
Like you're dropping a rock and waves.
Exactly, like waves come out of the rock, and they're not even. It's different place. So it's actually giving you more forgiveness in certain spots of the club. That's what correct. It is. But it's 10 times last year's.
10 times over last year's.
Right.
And no one else is doing it as far as I know.
It's not even close.
Yeah.
It's not even close.
We're light years ahead of the face.
Right.
So.
And so talk about the inside of the club real quick. Talk what's in there. So
inside the club, you've got, every model's a little different.
Right.
The HL's a little lower profile.
Right.
You got a little more loft to help your launch conditions, but you've got a urethane backing. It's all urethane. That helps dampen the sound.
Yep.
It helps the feel of the club, makes it a little soft.
Right.
And then you've got a tungsten weight in the toe for stability.
Right.
It keeps that toe from shutting down.
100%.
Which is exactly what you need.
That's the point. Exactly.
And that's
the whole
something
point.
that'll be advantage.
It's a huge advantage. The tungsten weight is towards the toe, so it keeps it from flipping over, which causes the draw. Right.
And then you got urethane backing on the insert itself on the back side, the medallion.
Right.
So the sound of the club this year is very good. It's
very interesting because I had the same, it's not a debate. It's just that we get educated every single time, but we went into the putter fitting. And I talked to Luke, who runs the putter, and he's done this for 30 years. Right. And we talk about the different inserts in the putter. And he always says, the general public doesn't understand that feel is generated by sound.
Yep.
They think they feel it. They don't feel hardly anything. You don't feel it, but you hear
it.
And when you hear it, you relate that to sound.
That's correct.
And you relate that to feel. So they say when you hear a clank, it's like, oh, that club's really hard. When you hear like a nothing, that club's really soft. So they said in particular with putters, but in irons and everything, sound and feel are directly related, but feel is sound. So that's why they do all this. They're trying to get a good sounding club. That's a great sounding club that then creates what? A good feel for that person.
But what's crazy is you can't just put it anywhere in the club.
That's right.
It has to have, the mechanics have to be there.
Right. Now, the HL version is the high launch version. So basically, this is going to be the one that guys that make no divot, minimal divot, that need to help get that ball up. Because the thing that I don't think a lot of people realize at home is how much further they'd actually hit it if they just hit the right height, because they hit the ball too low.
Correct.
And you've hit this ball low your whole life, or you don't take much divot, you don't create much spin in the golf ball, you don't make much compression on the ball or minimal compression. And this ball, you think it flies okay, but you're missing that launch window by 10, 20, 30, 40 feet, whatever it is. And if you just hit that window, that club would go a club 2, 3 clubs longer.
Absolutely.
And that's the whole point. And that's what that HL is all about, is to get that optimal launch window.
It's very easy to hit too, Tim. It feels good, but it's easy to hit.
It's maximum forgiveness. The key in what I was told on this, and correct me if I'm incorrect this, is it's maximum forgiveness, but maximum height.
That's exactly right. That's
why when I heard that, I go, that's going to replace the HL from last year, and this is the one that guys make minimal divot.
That's right.
And then you have the standard one. You just have the regular Elite.
The standard Elite is more, we call it the player's distance. Right. So if you're a little lower handicap, you don't need to offset, you don't need to launch, then that's the club for you.
And I look at the guys and they say, I make a good divot. I compress it really well. I don't need to worry about height. I hit the ball. In fact, sometimes I hit it too high, things like that. We're looking at that club. That's what we go to. Yeah.
That's right.
That's the one that's just short of the guy that might go to the Apex.
Correct.
This one has got more forgiveness. It's going to be a little bit longer, bigger sweet spot. But then we walk into that Apex line. Am I right?
That's correct.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, the irons are amazing. I mean, I think the biggest thing I saw about the irons in comparison, the two biggest things was number one, the sound, but number two is the chrome. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's a chrome fashion. When I talk to the engineers, it's the first thing they said. They go, Callaway would have loved the looks of this.
Exactly. He wants clean.
Yes. That was the thing. He doesn't want some, he wants really, really, really clean. And that's what they kept saying, that he would have loved to appreciate the looks of these. All right. And then we're going to work our way up because we're talking to hybrids. Okay. Real quick about the hybrids. Now, hybrids are amazing. It's the toe weight and heel weight, which is a new thing, option of the hybrids.
Big thing.
It's a big thing. So you can do some adjustability in that, and we'll pre-adjust and we fit the guys in that.
Correct.
But the huge thing on the hybrids, I'm going to go on this, is the OptiFit or the fit system that we adjust the angle.
That's exactly right.
So I can go up to two down, and everything in between.
That's right.
So when I'm ordering these clubs for the guys and custom fitting them, I'm custom fitting the line angle on this thing preset at the factory. Here you go.
Yep.
That's huge.
That's huge. And then you can also do the loft.
Yeah, the loft also. Yep.
So if the guy gets a gap, you need to
So if the guy gets the club, he wants to add a little bit, take a little bit from that, he can do that.
Yep.
Now we're going to preset it so it's fit across. So if they were like a 4 hybrid, 5 hybrid, 6 hybrid, that 6 hybrid will be set to fill the gap next to that 7 iron. So this is not this huge gap.
And if he fits you to that, don't mess with it.
Yeah, that's what I always say. We always tell them, because we notoriously we get the call like, well, how do I adjust this? Don't adjust it unless something weird happens.
Exactly.
So, like all of a sudden you see this 25-yard gap. Okay, now we can talk and call us first. But because we're going to have it pre-adjusted there. And so they'll set, but that's huge that they can adjust a line angle. That's huge.
And it's just like you said, if they call, they have a gap, they can fix it. You can coach them through it over the phone.
100%. And that was the biggest thing and we'll fall back a step here, but that's why Adams became so famous, because they had that big old neck on the hybrids and you could adjust the lie angle.
You could bend it.
And then And then we went Adams. And when Chip Brewer left Adams, it was the first thing he said in Callaway, because there was a few years he couldn't work and he had to stay out. When he came back into Callaway, I remember this because I sat at the show and I talked to him personally. He said, the biggest thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure hybrids are adjustable.
Yeah.
And that was big because the Adams was a hybrid company.
Right.
And they were adjustable. That was massive. And you know how important that is. And that's in that hybrid.
So this is big. And this goes all the way down.
Right.
It's not just the 3 hybrids.
Right. It goes all the way.
Right.
So now there's 3 different hybrids, right? There's 3.
Well, there is. There's the Elite.
Right.
And then there's the X. And then there's the Fast.
Right. So you got the Fast, you have the X, and then you got the regular.
Yep.
And so most people out there are going to get in the X, the version of this. That's what's going to match up with her, and it's going to fit for them. Yeah, a little bit more forgiveness and so on.
Right.
Yep, going to fit that all right. And then you have fairway woods. Let's talk fairway woods for a minute. What do you think about the fairway woods?
I think they're hot.
They're really, well, I know I sat next to Hadwin, and he was going crazy about his fairway wood. He loved the driver. And he's obviously they're both going to go in his bag. But this fairway wood was like, there was some extra to this. He was just going nutso about this. This is how good this thing was and how much speed he got off this.
Well, you probably noticed right off the bat a few subtle changes that you may not be able to see on TV, but you will when you get up close and personal. But on the bottom of it, they've got a step sole.
Right.
So the step sole is less ground interaction. You're faster through impact.
Right. So
you're automatically picking up club speed.
Right. The step sole, absolutely.
Which makes you hit it further. 1 mile an hour club speed is about 3 yards.
Right. 100%.
So now you've got a 10-inch face, faster club speed.
Yep.
You're already gaining at least 7 yards.
Right. 100%. And that's what he saw. I think that's what he saw. Because think about it. You got Adam Hadwin out there, who's the creme de la creme. He's the top 0.001% of players out there. He's a PGA player for years. And he puts this in his bag. And he's comparing to a smoke, which he had won a lot of money with. Okay. And he puts this in his bag and immediately he's getting distance that doesn't make sense. I mean, it's because of the interaction, the whole thing in general. It's the way it interacted with the ground, the way it came off and how hot it was. Yeah.
The other thing that I like they did, Tim, is they put that tungsten speed cartridge up front.
Right.
It helps with more center shot hits. So 25% more, a lot of low groove hits on a fairway wood.
Right.
It moves it up.
So this lets you, and you'll see the profile's pretty thin in the front. Now the other one, there's the X is a little bit bigger, but the pretty thin in the front. But what that is, and it's what I don't want anybody to freak out in that. They'll look at a club and go, that's really thin. That's the ability to get that center of gravity low.
That's right.
And so now something that's hit thin will still launch.
That's right.
Because if you get this really high, if you hit the middle of that club or high, it's going to launch low. Yep. You're going to lose that height. So you have to get it thin to get the launch low. Right. That's how the fairway woods work.
Right.
And so don't be freaked out when you look at this. Go, man, that's like a small profile. Be freaked out when you got a big old head on there and it's really wide and realize if I hit the middle of that club, I'm actually putting some overspin. That's the last thing you want on a fairway wood.
And be confident that even a turbo has confidence.
Oh, no, 100%. And that's the big thing. And the thing I look at this thing is I sit there and say, okay, and this is when you start talking about decent players. When they see thick fairway woods, they think I get in a tight lie, I'm going to have a hard time hitting this. Like a really tight, tight fairway. They want a very thinner one that they can get down to that.
That's right.
We can all hit on the first cut of rough with that. But when you get in that tight light fairway, they've got to have a thin profile. And that's the first thing they're thinking. A thin profile will let me get underneath that ball.
And that's where that step sole comes in.
100%. That's hot.
You're not dragging the back side of it, which causes the club to come up.
100%. And then let's talk to the big dog. You got
to talk big dog.
We got dog talking the big dog here. So we're talking the driver. And the Elite driver, and talk about it a little bit. Do you have a break? You got one break?
I do have a breakaway, and I got to say it's really hard to get better on a driver.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, there's limitations, right? So you can't mess with the COR,
right?
What can you do to make it better than the last driver?
Right.
Which Callaway's been the number one driver for the last 7 years.
I think 7 or 8 years. Yeah.
So to increase every year, that's why they want to call it the Elite. You got to be elite,
right?
So once we came out with this.
Okay.
So what you're looking at on the top is what they call a thermoforged carbon crown. So it's very light and very strong. Right. It's not just carbon; it's thermoforged carbon.
There you go. That's why he's here.
Yeah. So it's really cool stuff, but it's very light, very strong. The other thing they've done is they've worked on the aerodynamics of the club head. So the whole thing with being elite, you got to find other ways to increase it, not just the face, which is what we're the best at. But now we've shaved some of the aerodynamics, it's faster through impact. So the backside of this club with the materials is 1 mile an hour faster than the smoke.
Right.
1 mile an hour is 3 yards, Tim.
Yep.
I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but then you couple it with the AI 10X face.
Right.
When you can hit it all over the face and gain ball speed and gain tighter dispersion.
Right.
You've got a better club.
100%.
So it's an average of about 7 yards longer than the smoke.
So listen to what he said there, 7 yards longer than the smoke for the average player. So for some guys at home, I see 4 or 5. Some guys might at home, I see 10. I mean, maybe more.
I had a guy last week pick up 15 and he was a pro.
Yeah. Well, we were out at Callaway doing that. He was, Dog was actually here fitting the pros here. And guys, these are club pros. These aren't guys out there playing for a living. These are guys are club pros. Yep. Some of these guys are 10, 15, 20 handicaps, same guys. And he fits them, try to get the club in their hands early, obviously. And he's got guys in there. And I saw him. And these guys aren't young guys either. Most of these guys are not. Yeah. They're my age or older. Yeah. And they're picking up somewhere to 10, 15, 20 yards with these clubs.
That's a big deal.
That's a big deal.
That's a full club and a half.
Yeah, that's a big deal. But the other interesting thing about this that I didn't realize, and people are going to sit there and say, okay, how does Callaway do this? How does Callaway do this? It's more than just having the AI technology, because they have the AI, real players data. But I was explained it this way. Typically, when you create a new driver, you create a mold of a driver. Okay, you create this mold. I'm going to do this in raw version. And you have to now take the dynamics of that mold. They would do it overseas. They'd send it over here, take a while to get here. You start testing it. And you'd have all these things. You test it. Then you go and you'd say, okay, I need to change that mold. And you do it again. And so in a series, which would take a year, they could go through 4 or 5 different molds. Okay, 4 or 5. Callaway now has the ability to do it here. They actually have, it's some real advanced 3D printing is what it is, but it's beyond high tech 3D printing. And they said they went through 25 of these in like a month or two.
75 in 3 months.
75 in 3 months.
That's insane.
75 for a company would have taken about 20 years.
Yeah.
This was done in one, it was like a 9-month period.
Yeah.
To get this created. And they do it here now. And they actually have 3 or 4 of those machines working full time. It was crazy. And he was just explaining this. It's about the ability to create the molds of these drivers in-house and then constantly test them. Because they take these molds and they put them on fire and iron by them and they go at it. And they go through millions and millions of hits because they got to talk about durability. They got to talk about proving the numbers. But also remember this, and this is the biggest thing. Everybody at home goes, yeah, everybody says it's longer. Everybody says it's longer. This is the big thing now. You can test it at home because this is what the industry has changed at in the last 5 to 10 years and earlier. This is what's changed. We're sitting in our fitting center right here. I have top tracers sitting over here. I have TrackMan sitting over here. And I can put it on this board sitting behind us. So when Dog comes in here and fits somebody from last year's driver and he puts a new one in there, those numbers pop up over there and he's got to go, look, your numbers are better here than they were. Am I right?
That's correct.
Because if they're not, he's got to put his leg behind the tail between his legs and go, his tail between his legs and go, I'm kind of dead here. It didn't prove it.
Right.
And anybody, anywhere, anytime can do this. And Callaway understands this.
That's correct.
Because anybody can test it now. You guys at home can buy an SC4, an SC400. You can buy a top tracer. You can buy a TrackMan. You can go test it yourself. You can go to any golf stream, come in here. You can test it. And that's what Dog does. That's what you do.
That's correct.
So when he's out here doing this and he's not just going, look, you got longer. He's got TrackMan sitting up there going, look, it's longer.
Numbers don't lie.
Numbers don't lie. And that's why I always tell you guys. That's why when I say I take excuses out of the bag and I'm fitting you guys up at home, and I do it, 90% of you guys or more, I never see you in person. I'm fitting you for the fittings that you send me, the information you send me, and I'm taking this driver, which is the hottest driver out there, making sure you have the right shaft, the right grip size, the right length. I'm getting that all set up to fit you in your single plane swing, which optimizes everything for you.
Exactly.
But the guts of this driver are longer than anything out there. And it has to be proven. That's the point.
That's correct.
And you can show it a little bit more about that.
Well, and this is just a one-piece head. Used to there would have all kinds of materials inside that may clank around or get loose. No more. Right. It's one full solid piece. What's cool is they also shaved weight this year, not only from the material, but the slider weight is now movable weight, which shaved weight.
So now you can take a weight out, put it in the toe, put it in the heel.
Right.
So
which you don't need to do once it gets set.
Right.
But it gives you the ability to fit.
And for 95 to 99% of ours, we're going to stay neutral with it because we're working on our swing. But just like we've talked about before, you all of a sudden start working on your swing and you're slicing the crap out of it. And you want to go play that round this weekend. You put the thing on the toe and you fix it.
Right.
And then you come back and you put it back in that center. Right. And it's no longer, how much do I put it over there? How much? It's take it out, put it in, take it out, put it in. It's real simple.
That's right.
It's
and it
real
saves a lot of weight and it's just more consistent. So then you have what we call the cutaway. It shows you how it's made. So you've got this, then you've got your thermo forged carbon crown.
I don't think people realize how light this is.
Oh, it's like a feather.
It's literally like a feather.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the crown of it. And I know you guys are sitting there thinking it's a big, heavy piece of metal. This thing lays
It may be slow motion.
No, if I drop it, it'd be like it would. I mean, it's like a fingernail on the top of the club. It is. It's crazy, but it's crazy how durable it is.
It's strong.
Yeah, it's really strong.
It's very strong.
Well, they went to NASCAR and they did this a few years back and they said, how do you create the tops of these cars, the hoods of these cars and get them aerodynamic? and make them so light and aerodynamic because we got to get the motor and the engines where all the weight is. And they just hired those guys to brought them to Callaway.
Yeah, there you go.
No, they did.
And the materials are kind of expensive.
I remember 2 or 3 years ago, I talked to one guy. I go, what'd you do before? And he goes, I was a NASCAR engineer. And I was like, NASCAR? And he goes, yeah, NASCAR. And I go, like, because I designed the hood. And he goes, that's it. And I was like,
hey, if you're going to be elite, no pun intended, you got to think out the box.
You got to, yep.
But you can see the head, and then the crown will fit right there on the head. So there's where you see that piece.
Yep.
Now you take your second gen player swing code data face, which you can't see it, but there's a lot of little ripples on it, and it's geared toward that particular player.
Right.
They're all different.
Yep.
Every face is different,
yep.
which is really cool.
And that's the cool thing, because you talk about the ripples. This is crazy what this is on the backside of this. And that's what's in there. And that's real players' data. That's right. That's actually, there's the workhorse of it. That's the crazy part.
This is not made up. It's not on Iron Byron. No. This is real stuff.
Yeah. And I even went there and I put some pictures of Iron Byron, put it on Facebook, and I sat there because I was behind it. When you sit there and you get ready and you get set, the guys set the cameras and stuff, the Iron Byron's flying off inside. It never stops. Yeah. There's 3 of them going at one time. They're going and they're going and they're going. They're continually testing whether it's balls or clubs.
That's right.
But here's the other deal. Remember, everybody thinks you take a ball and you stick it in the middle of the club. And what's it doing? They're firing it as far off the toe as they can, as far off the heel as they can. They're firing it all over. Well, they say there's like 2,000 different points. They're firing it off in this club face to see what the data is and see how it responds.
So we were able to touch 1,500 control points on the smoke.
1,500.
Now they're 10 times that.
There you go. See that?
So that's number shows you about. There's over 250,000 iterations of one face.
Right. And then the cool thing also about this, and this is why I do this for you guys, is they come up with certain shafts for these clubs that work better than others. I mean, so that, you guys think there's 5,000 shafts out there. Well, there is, and I have access to them, and we can get them through Callaway. So if you hit the same shaft for 7, 8, 9 years, we can get that in there. But there's certain shafts that fit the clubs better than others, and that's how they test them. Was that?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and they were really high in the Denali and the 10C this year. They're really high in those.
Well, the dynamics work well with that head.
Right.
So that's what it comes down to.
Right, and so... But that's really kind of it in the nutshell. But I want to, you've already gone out a little bit. You've done some fittings in here with the pros, and your life's going to be for the next year going on the road again. Am I right?
That's correct.
How many miles you put in your car a year?
Oh, about 60,000.
60,000.
Yeah.
Jeez. See, now I get in a plane, but you're in the car because you're more. I'd
rather stay on the ground.
Yeah, I know. I put 300,000 in a plane.
Yeah.
But you wear out that car. I know but you're going to go. So tell them a little bit what you do, just kind of in this way, but you're our rep here. Okay. But you cover a lot of area. Okay. So tell them what you do when you go out, and tell me kind of what you do for your life. What is your life when you rep? What do you do?
It's nonstop.
I know it's
but it's fun.
Yeah.
I'm very fortunate to represent a company like Callaway, where they're always innovative, and R&D team is amazing.
Yeah.
So it's fun to show people new products that actually work.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to show people a product that doesn't perform.
Right.
Hey, check this out, Tim. This stuff, it's easy to get excited about.
Right.
So I have about 150 accounts. Yeah. You're my number 1 account, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that. It's because he likes me.
Yeah. No, but it's fun to do. But I'll go out and show the product lineups, book the product lineups, schedule all the fitting events, all the launch of the different products, education. Right. It's just a constant, nonstop battle. Right. But
he's constantly going. You have anybody work for you?
I do have a few fitters.
Yeah, a few fitters that work for you. I see them out there, but they're not as good as Dog. But they're good, but they're not as good as Dog. So he's got this inside information. But the coolest thing at Callaway, and this is what this is what you get excited about, is because I've been with a lot of other companies. I haven't been for a few years just because Callaway's gone so far above everybody else. But when you go out there, like I was talking to the guy runs the iron department. He's a mechanical engineer, younger guy, genius probably, went to MIT, whatever it was. And it's just like, oh, you kidding me? And he goes, yeah, my team created this iron. And I look at him, I go, what's your team? How many is your team? And he looked at me and I always ask him that question. And he goes, well, it's at least 40 or 50. And he goes, but if you counted my entire team that's behind this, is probably closer to 100, 150. And I go, just in the iron? He goes, yeah, just the iron. I'm like, oh my gosh. This is the real deal. It's not like there's 2 guys in the back room pounding something out.
This is serious stuff.
Yeah, and this is mechanical engineering to the umpteenth degree.
And it goes back to Chip's theory. Yeah. If you make a product that performs, it resonates, people will buy it.
Yeah. And I asked the one guy, I said, some of you guys went to MIT. You guys are the top end mechanical engineers. A lot of these guys are mechanical engineers out there, or engineers, or scientists. But the guys we talked to, that the kind of the frontline guys are mechanical engineers. They all are. And I asked him, I said, so did you learn this stuff in college? He started laughing at me. He goes, this is so far and above. Because I mean, think about it. They graduated 2 or 3 years ago and the AI computers they thought about them. They were just out there. And now they're cranking these, $500 million computers out, literally $500 million. And their responsibility is cranking information, that computer and getting it out and interpreting it.
That's right.
Because all of a sudden they get all this information out, and what's it mean?
What are you going to do with it?
I mean, me and you look at this stuff and it'd be gibberish. I mean, and I love numbers. I'd be so far, it'd be light years above my head. What to
do with it.
Yeah. But they're looking at this stuff saying, okay, we can adjust this. We can do this. We can do that. We can do this. And he was interesting because he said, but the other thing that's very difficult for them, he said, there's certain spots you got to just stop and say, okay, we're going to take this information right now and run with this iron. We're going to go.
That's right.
And then now the iron of the next year, we'll use them because we have to stop at some time because it never ends. He goes, with AI, it never stops.
That's good.
So he goes, we could be putting 4 or 5 irons out a year. You can't, but he goes, we could because the amount of information coming in.
That's good.
So he goes, oh, of course. He goes, I say, you work on next year's iron? He goes, Tim, we're already working irons 2 or 3 years
ago. That's good.
He goes, but the reason is that it's impossible to take this information because it's so new and so innovative and put it in a product for next year. It's going to take longer than that because they don't even know how to interpret it yet.
It changes so rapidly.
Right. And they don't even know. They don't even know how to interpret it yet because it's so new. And he said, and we'll get into this, but we'll give these guys a little sneak peek. The part of the big research is golf balls and that ERC soft. And we're going to talk about this later because I'm not bringing it now, but I'm going to put a little teaser. But that ERC soft, which is a great golf ball and a majority of our clientele, it's a phenomenal golf ball. In fact, I've even put it into play a little bit. It's the first AI technology golf ball.
Ever AI
technology golf ball.
Yeah.
And when I was out there, they said they put AI technology in there. And how much, when you talk spin revolutions, you're talking in the thousands.
Yes.
Okay. Like it depends what club you're hitting, but like a driver, 1,800, 2,400, 2,500 spin revolutions. Okay. And a wedge, maybe 4,000 or 5,000. Okay. And when they put this AI technology out there, they expected 40 to 50
RPM
revolutions increase with this AI technology. They got over 400 and it freaked them out. Freaked them out.
Yeah.
They got 10 times what they expected. And they were saying now they're like, this ERC soft is going to be competitive with this Chrome Tour that's out there and the Chrome Tour X. I mean, which is crazy.
That's insane.
That's insane. But the AI technology, and we'll talk more about this. I'll get Dog on here, talk about it when we get him in hand and so on, because that's supposed to be end of January. But this is crazy. Because what's going to happen is a lot of tour players are going to put this ball in their hand because it's long, it's durable.
That's the key. It's long, durable, but now it spins enough that you can hold the green.
Now it spins. Now it spins for these tour players too.
Yep.
And so it's crazy. And they were just gone nuts. But that's a classic example of even the AI technology shocked the guys who created the AI. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's like they're getting stuff on this thing going, whoa, we didn't expect this. But we'll talk more about that. But so you think these Elyte are going to be a hit?
I think they might be pretty good.
I think they're going to be pretty good. Well, you got the guy's name on it.
Yeah, you got to be good, right?
Your Dog, but this is Big Dog.
This is Big Dog.
This is Big Dog's name. This is Big Dog. Yeah. So you don't
put Regional Callaway's name on it if it's not good.
You do not do that. So and the other thing that was interesting, the last thing on this was, do you know the story behind the green?
I really don't.
That's Elyte's favorite color.
Okay.
And that's why you didn't know. See, I
didn't know
I'd get some here. See, I knew it.
Me.
So I loved it. I noticed I waited until the very end. That was a big deal. The marketing guys were like, they kept pointing the green out. And I kept going, well, who cares about this green? And then I finally was like going, why do you keep pointing the green? He goes, oh, that was Elyte's favorite color. He loved that in the clubs.
Wow.
Do you remember the Mavericks, all the stuff that came out?
The orange.
That was that green.
The Epic was green.
That was the point.
Yep.
And he loved the green. Yep. So that was the point. They wanted to put, so they when they came up with the color in this, because they could come up with it could have been a mustard color, a yellow, orange, whatever.
Orange
we liked the orange. When the orange came out, we were all about that orange. But yeah, the green was because that was his color. That was pretty cool.
Pretty cool.
I taught you something today.
You did. I always learn something.
Yeah.
Every time I'm around you.
He's lying. He's being nice. He's lying to you. So, well, guys, if you got any questions on this, you can always email me at timg@graysgolf.com. If you haven't been fit and you want to go through our single plane fitting, you can email me. I'll get you the link, or you can go on and, get the link below. And we always have that link out. We do, I literally get during the golf season, I'll get 30 to 40 fittings a day, medium to busy days. Sometimes I get up to 100 a day. So when I'm doing that, I'm doing you guys a static fitting for you guys, but I'm making sure that everything from your putter all the way through your drivers fit to you perfect. And as I say, and this is the guy that helps me with this, is that we take all excuses out of your bag. Because if you're working on your swing, the last thing you want is a club in that bag that doesn't fit you and that swing you're working towards. I just put it out again this morning about how we do our static fitting here. And we're an instruction-based company. So we're trying to get a club that fits the swing you're working towards. And then swing changes occur easier. They occur faster. It's easier to make those changes and makes this game a whole lot more fun.
That's what it's all about.
So it's all about.
Making it fun.
This was all about. So Dog, I appreciate you. I appreciate you like always coming in.
Thank you for having me.
We'll do some more of these. I mean, you're the expert in this stuff and you have to talk about it every day. You live this. So, but anyway, so guys, thanks for joining us in this podcast. We'll talk to you guys real soon.